Good morning. We're just going to give a moment to clear the waiting room and make sure that folks have connected to audio and can hear us. As a reminder, when you are entering from the waiting room, please do remain on mute unless or until you are appearing or testifying before the board. Good morning. This is a hearing before the licensing board for the city of Boston. Today is Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. Today's hearing is being held pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston's website. Before I review procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman of the Board, Kathleen Joyce.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm Chair of the Boston Licensing Board. I'm also joined today by Commissioner Liam Curran and Commissioner Kiana Saxon.
Thank you. Please ensure that your audio and visuals are working properly. I will call each item in the order that it appears on this morning's agenda. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee, who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department, and whether there are any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record, and the licensee or their representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement, followed by questions by the chair and commissioners. All testimony will be limited only to those individuals with firsthand personal knowledge of the alleged incident. We'll begin with the first item on this morning's agenda, calling item number 1, MW&W Inc., doing business as China Pearl Restaurant located at 5 to 9A Tyler Street. Date of the incident, October 15th, 2023. Assault and battery with injuries, employee on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Green, Kristen Scanlon for the licensee. Also present is Brian Moy, who's the owner of the licensed premises, along with Ty Miller, the manager at the licensed premises, and Jay Howard, who is head of security.
Thank you very much. I don't know if I see all of them on the screen, so for anyone who is planning to testify, please make sure that your camera is on so that we can swear you in. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective James Walsh.
Thank you, Detective Walsh. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? Okay. Can you all please raise your right hand? And again, I don't believe I see Mr. Moy on my screen.
I don't know that I see Mr. Howard either. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yep.
There you are. Okay.
Yep, we see Mr. Howard, Mr. Miller. If Mr. Moy is intending on providing testimony, we can swear him in at that point.
Okay.
Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
I do.
Thank you, Detective Walsh. If you can please proceed with the police report for us.
Thank you. The following is the initial report. About 2 p.m., Cadet Theodore Wallace, assigned to the front desk at A1, took a walk-in assault report. The victim stated that on October 15th, 2023, approximately between 1:30 and 1:45 a.m., he was assaulted by security bouncer at Province 44 nightclub located at 11 Tyler Street, Boston. The victim stated that he was approached aggressively by security, and they accused him of pushing one of the bouncers. The victim stated that he calmly responded, saying they mistaken him for someone else. The victim stated that 2 bouncers aggressively grabbed him and took him into a room and body slammed him. The victim stated that he used his left arm to break his fall. Then the bouncers picked him up and threw him out. The victim stated that his knee was swollen and he felt like his arm was shattered. He was then brought to Tufts Medical Center by some college friends. Boston Police Detective Walsh conducted an investigation into this incident, attempting to speak with the victim, alleged suspects, and any potential witnesses. Detective Walsh spoke with the victim and obtained a victim statement that reads as the following. On Saturday, October 14th, I visited Province 44 with my cousin, Danny Schatz, and his friend, Miguel. We purchased tickets and arrived at the nightclub located at 11 Tyler Street, Chinatown, around 12:25 a.m. After waiting in line, I entered the venue approximately 12:30 a.m., where a house techno music event was underway. I spent time dancing and enjoying the evening with my cousin and his friend until about 1:20 a.m. It was then that I met Anya Franco, a person I had not previously known. I remained with her for the remainder of the night after Danny and Miguel left about 1:30 a.m. At around 1:40 a.m., I stepped away from the dance floor and Anya began to share that her ex was present at the event and pointed towards an area of the club. Within 5 minutes, I was confronted by two club security officers / bouncers. A photo of the two bouncers is attached. Both bouncers began to verbally accuse me of disrespect, falsely claiming that I had pushed one of them. I was afraid and attempted to clarify their misunderstanding, stating, quote, "I am not the person you are looking for, and you must be mistaking me for someone else," end quote. They remained hostile. Both men forcibly grabbed me, continued their verbal assault, and dragged me into the back room resembling a storage area. They restrained me in the back room and forcibly prevented me from leaving. They persisted in accusing me of pushing one of them. They started manhandling me. I was terrified and pleading with the bouncers, saying, "Please don't hurt me," as I tried desperately to de-escalate the situation. They would not let me leave, and their aggression escalated. The bouncer, who insisted I had pushed him and grabbed me by the waist and body slammed me to the ground. I extended my arm as I fell, resulting in a severely shattered radius and injured knee. X-ray attached. I was incapacitated by the fall and in severe pain. The bouncers yelled at me to get up, but I could not stand up. While I was lying on the floor, they continued to demand that I get up so they could eject me from the premises. When they presumably realized that I could not get up, they picked me up and carried me from the back room into the club. While carrying me through the club, some friends noticed and assisted me outside. When I was outside, the bouncers remained aggressive, threatening me and then threatening my friends who were helping me. My friends took me to Tufts Medical Center, where x-rays revealed that the bouncers had broken my radius, necessitating surgery. The operation was performed on October 18th, during which a permanent metal plate was inserted into my bone with 9 screws. Photo attached. According to medical professionals, recovery from this injury is expected to take a full year. The investigation, Detective Walsh and Keneally responded to investigate this incident at 11 Tyler Street on October 16th. The venue is a private event space located on the 3rd floor, adjacent to the restaurant Shoujo at 9A Tyler Street. While on scene, detectives performed a Code 35 licensed premise inspection and met with employee Vanna Tran and manager Ty Miller. Both stated they were aware of the incident. Mr. Miller stated he did not witness the incident, but had heard an individual had swung a punch at security. On October 24th, Detective Walsh spoke to owner Brian Moy, who stated he was aware of the incident, stating he was not present that night, but had spoken to his staff and stated an individual had swung a punch at security, and security took that individual to the ground to prevent further assault. Mr. Moy advised that the cameras are installed but are not currently working. Moy stated he would provide the names of the staff involved, with the incident later determined to be Quentin Leak and David Allen. Mr. Moy stated that 2 managers working that night were Ty Miller and Blaze Sato. I advised Mr. Moy to have them call me if they would give a statement about the incident. On October 25th, Detective Walsh received a phone call from security Quentin Leak, who was involved in the incident. Mr. Leak stated that between 1:45 a.m. and 2 a.m. when the lights went on, an individual bumped into him and pushed him while walking off the dance floor. Mr. Leak stated he pushed him back to create distance, and the individual swung a punch at him. Mr. Leak stated he wrapped him up, and while doing so, the individual elbowed him. Mr. Leak stated they both fell to the ground when it is believed the individual sustained his injuries to his arm. The victim provided photographs of a computer monitor of what appears to be a forearm that is broken, and in the next photograph, a plate inserted into the injured forearm area. The victim's discharge paperwork from the hospital has been requested. Mr. Leak to be charged in Boston Municipal Court with assault and battery, serious injuries. And that's all I have at this time.
Thank you very much, Detective. Attorney Scanlon, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, please. Some questions for Detective Walsh, if I may. Detective, the alleged victim, Mr. Umansky, self-reported the day following the alleged incident on October 16th, 2023, correct?
Yes.
And no alleged witnesses accompanied Mr. Umansky to A1 during the self-reporting, correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
No injuries were observed to his knee as alleged in the initial report, correct?
In the initial report, the victim stated that his knee was swollen. The cadet Theodore was the one who took the report, so I can't speak to that.
But it's fair to say that the report doesn't say that Cadet Theodore observed any injury to the knee, correct?
Correct.
And it doesn't state that Cadet Theodore observed any injuries to Mr. Umansky's left arm, correct?
Correct.
And Detective Walsh, it appears you conducted an investigation in the days between October 16th and November 5th.
Correct.
And during that time, you spoke with the owner of the establishment, Brian Moy.
Yes.
You also spoke with manager at the establishment, Ty Miller.
Yes.
And you also spoke and received, as we heard, a further elaborated statement from Mr. Umansky.
Yes.
And you never spoke with the female alleged to have been with Mr. Umansky, Ms. Anya Franco, correct?
Ms. Franco did not witness the alleged assault. I think she provided assistance to him afterwards.
Is that indicated in your report somewhere?
I believe it's in my notes.
Okay, but not in the report that we heard.
Correct.
And you never spoke, or Mr. Umansky never provided names with the alleged friends that supposedly assisted Mr. Umansky from the licensed premises, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you never spoke or heard from any alleged witnesses who provided corroborating statements with Mr. Umansky's, correct?
Correct.
You did speak, however, with the alleged suspect here, security officer Quentin Leak,
Yes.
and he voluntarily called you.
Yeah, I had made notice to Mr. Moore to have him call me.
Okay. But he voluntarily called you after you asked Mr. Moy to have him call you?
Yes.
And Mr. Leak informed you during that conversation that it was Mr. Umansky that was combative with him, correct?
Yeah, he said that he bumped into him on the dance floor.
So that it was Mr. Umansky that pushed him? Or bumped into him and pushed him?
An individual bumped into him and pushed him while walking off the dance floor.
Okay, and it was Mr. Leak that attempted to de-escalate the combative Mr. Umansky and restrain him, and they both fell to the ground?
Mr. Leak stated he pushed him back to create distance and the individual swung a punch at him.
Okay. And then Mr. Leak told you that they both fell to the ground as a result of this altercation?
He stated he wrapped him up, and while doing so, the individual elbowed him, and they both fell to the ground.
And you stated that this is, quote, when it is believed the individual sustained his injuries to his arm. Believed by whom? Mr. Umansky, or did Mr. Leak say that? That was your determination?
Mr. Leak.
Okay, but Mr. Leak didn't observe any immediate or apparent injury to Mr. Umansky, correct?
I'm not sure about that.
But he didn't tell you that in that conversation?
Well, he indicated that he believed that when they fell to the ground that Mr. Umansky had injured his arm.
Okay. The victim testified to you in his further elaborated statement that he was incapacitated and in severe pain.
Yes.
And that wasn't corroborated by any other witnesses, correct?
No.
There's no evidence other than Mr. Umansky's testimony that this is when he supposedly sustained the injury, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Umansky allegedly provided photos of a computer monitor of an injury, correct?
Yes.
And medical records were requested?
Yes.
Were they provided?
Yes.
Were they authenticated?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to note on what the record reflects, we have not been notified that and been able to verify the authenticity of any apparent injury or medical records. But other than that, Detective, staff of the licensed premises, were they otherwise cooperative with your investigation into this alleged incident?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Detective.
you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Green, present with us now is Mr. Moy, who is the owner. Brian, I think Danny needs to have you sworn in to testify.
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Moy. If you could please raise your right hand. Thank you for joining us. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you, Attorney Scanlon. You may proceed.
Thank you. So as I indicated, Brian Moy, who's the owner, he was not there that evening, doesn't have personal knowledge of the event, but obviously is here to testify and answer any questions the board might have. Mr. Miller is also present with us. He was the manager on duty. He was there, did not witness the event, but has limited personal knowledge of it. And Mr. Jamil, also known as Jay Howard, head of security, who was outside upon Mr. Umansky leaving the premises, who I'd like to proceed with some questions, if I may. Mr. Howard, can you say your name for the record?
Jamil Howard.
And what is your title as it relates to work at the premises?
I'm in security at the premises.
How long have you worked there?
A bit over 2 years.
And describe your background and training in the security industry, please.
I've been doing security work for about over 20 years. Most of which I work for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and Department of Youth Services, program director, regional director, trainer for Department of Corrections and Department of Youth Services, training with mediation training, de-escalation training at the Harvard Certificate Program and various other training programs, CPS, CPI, training programs within the state.
Thank you. How long was Mr. Quentin Leak working at the premises at the time this alleged incident occurred?
He was with us about 1.5 years at that time.
And what were his qualifications?
He had previous security experience and military background and training.
What do you do to train security hires on use of force?
I use a lot of the modules that I learned with the Department of Youth Services, just verbal de-escalation skills, verbal judo, as I like to call it, and always using equal or less force, and and try your best to de-escalate the situation without any physical confrontation.
Okay, were there any, can I speak English today? Sorry. Ever any issues with Mr. Leak, such as disciplinary matters dealing with patrons prior to this incident?
No, in fact, Mr. Leak is probably like, if you talk to the crowd of any events that we have at Shoujo, he's like a fan favorite. Like everybody loves him, knows him by name. Like he's, very unique in persona. People, he usually can verbally de-escalate a situation when nobody else can.
Turning your attention to the alleged incident and that evening, how many security staff were working that night?
14, 15. About 14 or 15.
Between stationed and roaming security, how many per each, and where are their locations?
In the main entertainment area, there's about 8 to 9 stationary positions. One by the bathroom, one by the elevator door, one by the secondary bar, 2 on the dance floor, 1 at the DJ booth. We have some roamers, and then there's a constant rotation between the staff that are at the door. When people start to file in, someone will come up and support the roaming and cover post. And then at that point, the rotation of positions is half an hour, 45 minutes, people rotating in and out of positions.
Okay. Now, did you happen to witness the alleged incident between Mr. Umansky and Mr. Leak?
I did not.
Did you have any interaction with the alleged victim, Mr. Umansky?
I did have interaction with him outside of the premises. I was outside.
And approximately what time was that?
That was just before 2 a.m.
And can you describe for us your interaction with Mr. Umansky outside, please?
I was outside just filing people, out from front of the premises. Him and his friends came out. I recognized them because they were just kind of yelling back and forth. And so just out of curiosity, as being head of security, I was asking them what was going on. One of his friends was kind of yelling at him, and I asked him what's going on. Was everything okay? And he referred to Mr. Umansky as a dumb ASS and said he tried to fight and swing on security. And I asked him, like, I was trying to ask him what happened, and he just in turn yelled back at his friend, and they were arguing back and forth. I said, you try to hit security? And I tried to ask them what happened after the fact. But they were just yelling and arguing back and forth. And then as we were talking, there were like sirens in the area, police, ambulance, I don't know. And his friends was basically saying to him like the sirens are probably for him. And so they took off on foot. They didn't run, but like walked kind of vigorously towards Stewart Street. And then when I came inside the premises, I was met with Mr. Leak, and he informed me that about the altercation.
So just to back up for a moment, when you were outside with Mr. Umansky and his friends, during this interaction, did you identify yourself as security?
I did. I let them know that's why I was approaching and interjecting in there. They
Okay.
disagreed.
And did you observe any injuries on Mr. Umansky at this time?
Not in the least. They were, just arguing back and forth, flailing their hands with each other. Like, I went to address them because it looked like that they were getting ready to get into an altercation, if you will.
So Mr. Umansky did not appear to be incapacitated in any way?
Not in the least. And in fact, when I, further got the details of what allegedly happened, I was kind of taken aback because, I'm like, I saw this kid when he came out, and I saw them arguing back and forth, and his friend was yelling at him for being assaulted towards security.
So just for the record, you didn't observe any crying, screaming, holding his arm, anything that would lead you to believe he was in pain at that time, or any injury had occurred, or any incident had occurred other than what they told you?
No pain, no injury. The only thing I heard as far as screaming is him screaming at his friend and then yelling at each other about the incident, and his friend asking him why did he, engage in, trying to fight security.
So you mentioned when you went inside that Mr. Leak reported to you what had occurred with Mr. Umansky?
He did.
And what did he tell you?
He told me that Mr. Umansky had been asked to leave the premises, kind of refused to, and was just completely out of control, like, assaultive and disrespectful. And they continued to try to walk him out of the premises. And in the midst of the incident, he just kind of wouldn't kind of gather himself to just listen to, the verbal prompts for him to leave. And then he began to get grabby and pushy and throwing punches and things that we spoke about earlier towards Mr. Leak. And then eventually, while them trying to get into control, he did mention that they both had fell, and at that point, he did get up and they walked him off the premises. He eventually gathered himself and walked out, on his own fruition.
Okay. Did you or any staff, to your knowledge, call the police that evening regarding this incident?
I did not. Like I said, by the time that I had got knowledge of the situation, they were already leaving the premises. I came inside, talked to Mr. Leak, and they were gone. As far as to my knowledge, they left on their own fruition. There was no there was nothing to report at the time. I couldn't report someone who wasn't there.
Would you have called police if you observed an injury outside?
Absolutely. I've been in this business a long time, like I said, well over 20 years. I'm pretty observant of things. Like I probably definitely, I didn't know that there was an incident, but then when I argue back and forth, I would notice any injury, I would absolutely offer them medical assistance and call, if you needed it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Howard. No further questions for Mr. Howard at this time. If I may proceed with Mr. Miller, a few questions for him. Ty, please just state your name for the record.
Ty Miller,
And how long have you worked for the licensed premises?
about 3 years.
Were you on duty the evening of October 14th, going into October 15th, early morning hours?
I was.
And did you happen to observe the alleged incident between Mr. Umansky and Mr. Leak?
Unfortunately, I did not get to see the incident take place. I was assisting my bar staff, cleaning up and just doing closeout duties.
Okay. When were you first made aware of the incident?
I would say after, directly after it happened. I'm not sure if it was before or after Mr. Leak spoke to Jamil, but Mr. Leak told me after.
Okay, and then the patron had already left the premises, to your knowledge?
Correct.
Did you call police that evening?
I did not.
Would you have, had you known about the alleged incident prior to the patron leaving?
Most definitely.
Or
Most definitely.
had you known of any alleged injury?
Excuse me?
Or if you had known of any alleged injury?
Yes, I would have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Miller. Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Green, if I may. Well, there seems to be some evidence presented of an alleged injury. There is no evidence of an alleged assault here. You did hear from staff that there was some sort of incident and an altercation that ensued with Mr. Umansky as the initial aggressor. And both parties unfortunately went down to the ground with Mr. Umansky allegedly injuring his arm against the ground. No evidence has been presented of an assault or intentional touching without an excuse or right, given Mr. Leak's reporting of the incident to both the Boston Police as read into the record and head of security, Mr. Howard. It was Mr. Umansky that pushed him, Mr. Umansky that swung to punch him, and Mr. Umansky that continued to be unruly with Mr. Leak, who was attempting to A, de-escalate the situation, and B, not be assaulted himself. If this injury even truly occurred at the premises and during this altercation, which is not clear at the moment, given witness testimony available to us at this time, it was a result of an unintentional fall during a scuffle and not based on any excessive use of force during the alleged incident. If an injury occurred in that moment, additionally, it was certainly by accident and not in a manner that was likely to cause any bodily harm. Unfortunately, at this time, the licensed premise, at the time of this incident, not at this time, but the licensed premises was undergoing extensive renovation on the second floor, and wires and cables had been cut, affecting the third floor where the alleged incident took place. So there's no surveillance footage available. However, there are cameras on premises now. The fact remains, though, as you heard through Detective Walsh's testimony, that no witnesses, despite the fact that there seemed to be several friends with personal knowledge that were with Mr. Umansky that evening, no witnesses came forward to corroborate Mr. Umansky's statement to police. But it remains that the witnesses of the licensed premises observed no obvious sign of injury after this alleged incident occurred, no sign of incapacitation, as the victim stated to police, no sign of severe pain or any notable injury whatsoever. Had they observed that, they would have most definitely called police. It simply wasn't information or observation known to them at that time. Lastly, and again, the BPD report references various photos and reports, medical reports that have not been made available to us and have not been authenticated. All we know at this moment are computer monitor photos were supplied. If further information is available, we would ask that we be provided an opportunity to review those before the matter is decided.
Thank you, Attorney Scanlon. Anything further before we move to questions from the board?
Nothing further at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Joyce, any questions?
I guess first a question for Lieutenant Troy. Can you forward the medical records to the licensing attorney, or can that you forward it to us?
Detective Welch has furnished me with those, with the medical records, as discharge papers, which I've emailed to the board. So it's my impression that it can be forwarded to the attorneys and necessary parties.
Okay,
Yeah, Attorney Scanlon, I'll make sure I send that to you.
Thank you.
so the testimony today was there were no working cameras at all anywhere, not even at the front door.
Brian, if you can chime in to confirm.
That is correct.
Mr. Moy, are the cameras working now?
They are working now, yes.
How long do they keep video for?
They are Google cameras. I believe they keep record up to, I think, 30 or 60 days. We subscribe to a membership that allows for more gigabyte storage. Personally, I'm not very technological. I do know that we just also upgraded our internet bandwidth to 1 terabyte to support our POS systems, Wi-Fi network for guests, as well as for the cameras.
Okay, aside from this incident, I'm asking you to forward us your security and operations plans, we have it on file, as well as a plan explaining how many cameras you have and how long they preserve video for. We're gonna keep those on file so that we can refer to them if there are any future incidents. Where is Mr. Leak now? Does he still work for you?
He is not currently employed with us at this point.
Okay, when did he stop working for you?
Roughly November, middle of November, roughly. So shortly after the incident.
Okay, and what was the reason of for his departure?
If I can have Jamil answer that, he does the hiring for the security.
Yeah, Mr. Leak just moved on because he just found another job, which is more closer to full-time employment. Being that the events on Tyler Street are like isolated and not consistent. He just wanted more consistent work. So he took a job elsewhere where he works like five nights a week.
Okay, and I assume that you have an internal report based upon the information that was shared with you that night?
Yes,
Okay, can you forward that to the board?
yes,
So it's your testimony that he was responding to being pushed by this patron.
correct.
What do you mean by creating space?
I'm sorry, creating space.
I think the testimony was that he pushed him back to create space.
So when the incident first occurred, the gentleman Alan Umansky, he stepped on the security, Mr. Leak's foot, and then Mr. Leak announced himself as, "I am security. The event is over. The exit is this way." And at that point, the Mr. Umansky pushed him and then also grabbed onto his shirt. And then that was when Mr. Leak had attempted to create more separation between them. And the word push was said to me. And that's when Mr. Umansky took a swing at Mr. Leak as well.
Okay, so you're gonna forward me your security and operations plan, your internal incident report. I may have more questions, but I'm gonna turn it over to Commissioner Curran and Commissioner Saxon.
Who is David Allen and where is he?
We reached out to him. He was an employee. He is no longer employed by us either. And he was unresponsive when we reached out to him.
Okay, do you have any written report from him from the time?
He is not part of the management, so we don't have employees put in incident reports for our incident log.
Okay, what at the time that you were questioned by Detective Walsh, you believe that he had some involvement in the incident? Is that true?
He was one of the responding security members onto the incident.
And do you have any sense of what he witnessed?
He has been unresponsive, unfortunately. I only have a phone number for him. So when I had attempted to call and text him, I did not get a response, unfortunately.
Okay, give me one moment. Sorry. Just going through. Just theoretically, anyone for the premises. Say there was a beginning of an altercation, just for the sake of argument, I'm not saying you have to say that it happened.
Commissioner Curran, you've muted yourself.
Sorry. I was clicking onto another document. So just for the sake of argument, if there was an altercation that began on this dance floor where you guys are saying it happened, is there any kind of back room close by that would fit at all with this idea that he was dragged to a back room?
There is not a back room, but there is a employee only hallway that is used for storage of tables and chairs, and an elevator.
There's an elevator there?
There is an elevator there, yes.
Any chance in the deliberation of this, you could get us pictures of that so I could get a sense of what it looks like?
Yes, I can.
All right. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
In the first part of the police report, there was this narrative about this woman who was saying, "Oh, there's my ex." Is there any connection? Was she pointing to one of the security guard? Like, what is the connection? What is the nexus, if any?
I am a little bewildered by that statement. I have no understanding. I don't think any of our staff has any understanding of that particular female and or that conversation. And based on the statement testimony, it seemed as though it was during the event, even though when the incident happened, the event was over. Lights were all on, music was stopped.
Any further questions from the board? Okay. The board will take this matter under advisement. The board has requested a security and operations plan, location of any security cameras and retention schedule of any footage, any internal incident report from this incident, as well as pictures of the employee hallway and where the elevator is. With that, the board will take this under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 2, Boston Ballroom Corporation doing business as Royale, located at 279 Tremont Street. Date of the incident, October 21st, 2023. Assault and battery, employee on patron in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. And assault and battery, patron on employee in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee? Anybody present with us on behalf of Royale?
Charles Delpidio.
Thank you, Mr. Delpidio. Looks like you're calling in from a phone. Is it possible to turn your camera on? You're calling from a cell phone. There we go. Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Giblin.
Thank you, Officer Giblin. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? Can you both please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. I do.
Thank you, Officer Giblin. Could you please read the police report into the record for us?
About 2:44 a.m. on Saturday, October 21st, 2023, Officer Giblin assigned to the Alpha 436 Alpha responded to a radio call for a report of an assault and battery at Royale Nightclub, 279 Tremont Street, Boston. Operations informed the responding officer that a female victim reported being assaulted by another female while inside of the club. Upon arrival, Officer Giblin met with the victim, identified as Keedron Pulling. She stated that her and her friends were inside of the club when one of her friends, Maya Janicki, closed her eyes. She stated that they were then approached by club security and were asked to leave the club because security believed that Miss Janicki was sleeping. Miss Pulling stated that she attempted to explain to security that Miss Janicki was not sleeping, but security was not listening to them. She stated that as security was escorting them out of the club, a black female security guard who Miss Pulling stated believed her name was Sarah, was very aggressive towards her and her friends. She added that when they were near the stairway leading downstairs, the female security guard shoved Miss Pulling and Miss Janicki to the point where they almost fell down the stairs. Once they exited the club, Miss Pulling stated that the female continued her aggressive behavior and began taunting the females by sticking her tongue out at them. She then notified police of the incident. Officer Giblin then spoke with Mike Rodriguez, security supervisor for the nightclub. He stated that his team did approach the group of females asking them to leave because they did observe one of the females to be sleeping. He then added that while the group of females were being escorted out of the club, one of the females swung her arm towards his female security staff member. He stated that in response to the attempted battery, his staff member shoved the female. He stated that he believed the female that attempted to strike the female security guard was Miss Pulling. When asked by Officer Giblin who the female guard was, he stated that her name was not Sarah, but, quote, Riri. He did not provide any further information. The suspect was later identified as Mariah Johnson through internal police reports. Officer Giblin notified the Alpha 910 Sergeant Downey, who responded and conducted a Code 35 licensed premise inspection number 060546. And the only thing that I would add is that I did get in touch with Miss Pulling and Miss Janicki and informed them of today's hearing. I am not sure if they're in attendance.
Thank you, Officer Giblin. Mr. Del Pidio, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Unfortunately, I personally was not there. I was downstairs. George Kalivas, who is our manager up there, is supposed to be here right now with me because George knows the whole incident. What George told me was that the girl was sleeping on the bench and was asked to leave. And as they took her out, she got a little combative, and then they went outside and they shoved each other a little bit. I really don't know any more about this case, and I don't know why George is not here right now. But if the board would allow me to try to get George, I've been trying, and he could give you all the facts. I'm only telling you what was told to me. To tell you I was there and I saw this, I did not.
Why don't you try to reach George?
Please, thank you, madam. And we'll call back in. Is that what you want me to do? I've already put 4 calls into him. I can't believe it.
If George is supposed to be here and you are relying on his testimony, I urge you to get George to be here.
Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna do it right now.
Thank you. Chairman Gross, would you like to move to the next matter? In the meantime,
Yes, we'll take them at the end.
we will move to item number 3, and we will come back if and when Mr. Kalivas joins us. Calling item number 3, Fenway Johnny's LLC, doing business as Fenway Johnny's, located at 96 to 98 Brookline Ave. Date of the incident, December 5th, 2022. Assault and battery, employee on patron, in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Attorney Seamus O'Kelly, representing the licensee. I should have 2 witnesses present as well. The licensee, John Caron, the manager, Igor Trindade. I see Mr. Trindade.
Thank you. I do not see Mr. Caron, but I do see Mr. Trindade.
Mr. Caron should be on. Attorney Green, I did speak with him this morning? I don't.
I'm here.
Oh, I hear his voice.
Great.
I
Thank
don't know
you.
why.
No worries. I've just asked you to start your video as well. So hopefully, there we go. Perfect. Thank you. And who, do you have any
Madam
other
Chair.
witnesses, Attorney O'Kelly?
I beg your pardon, Attorney Green?
Do you have any additional witnesses, Attorney O'Kelly, or just?
I have
Mr.
no
Cameron?
additional witnesses. I would like, if I may, for the record, the notice of hearing, which is dated February the 7th, 2024, was received by me from my client on February the 16th, 2024, with respect to an allegation that occurred, an alleged violation that occurred on December the 5th, 2022 at Fenway Johnny's, almost 14 months after the allegation, which hampered my client's ability to investigate this matter at the time the allegation occurred. Just for the record before we start.
Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective Fencer.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Detective Fencer, if you could please read the report into the record for us.
Yes. This report was written by Cadet Jimenez, okay, on 12/5/2022 at about 6:15 p.m. Cadet Jimenez, while assigned to the front desk at D14, took a walk-in report for an assault and battery. The victim, Daniel William Schubert, stated that he was at Fenway Johnny's nightclub located at 96 Brookline Ave, Boston, Mass. 02215. He went at about 11:45 p.m. on Saturday and was later asked to leave around 1:30 a.m. because they wanted to control the crowd in there. He stated that he was escorted by the bouncers, and after being brought outside, he tried talking with the bouncers so that he can get back inside. However, one of the bouncers was being rude, and that's when things started to escalate. The bouncer and the victim, Schubert, had to be separated because they were arguing with each other, and they were both being held back by people. Eventually, the bouncer was able to escape from the people that was holding him back, and he charged towards the victim. Eventually, the bouncer was, I'm sorry, I apologize, to escape the people and holding back, charged towards him. I'm just going to stop him eventually. Eventually, the bouncer was able to escape from the people that was holding him back, and he charged towards the victim, Schubert, throwing 4 to 5 punches. Schubert stated that he wasn't able to defend himself because he was still being held by people, and he saw that he had minor injuries on his right eye, nose, right cheek, and right bicep. Officers were also called to the scene after the victim, Schubert, left. This is an incident number, which is P2205-59425. D4 detectives were notified. About 7:30 p.m. on Friday, 12/9/2022, Detective Fencer in the Delta 801, along with Detective Stoddard in the Delta 843, responded to Fenway Johnny's, located at 96 Brookline Avenue. Detective Fencer issued Fenway Johnny's license premise inspection notice citation 026481 for an assault and battery employee on patron. Just to add, I did contact the victim. He stated that he did not wish to pursue the matter any further at this time.
Thank you. Attorney O'Kelly, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Thank you, Attorney Green. Detective Fencer, you have just read the report of Cadet Jimenez, correct?
That's correct.
That is not your own report, and you have no firsthand knowledge of what's stated in that report, correct?
No, that report was written by Cadet Jimenez, correct?
Okay. And it's fair to state that the alleged victim in this matter, Mr. Schubert, went to the Boston police the day following the alleged incident. Isn't that correct?
It seems so by the report, yes.
And there are no other witnesses to this alleged incident. Isn't that correct?
Not that I know of, no.
And there is no identification of the bouncer who is alleged to have been involved in an altercation with this individual, correct?
Not at this time, no.
No identification of him by name or by appearance, fair to say?
No. When I spoke with the manager, they did not state who the bouncer was, no, at this time.
And the police were called to the premises that night, correct, by management?
I just going from the report that was written by Cadet Jimenez, this is a front desk report that he came to file at the police station. So, being helped, I don't know. I don't know if they responded. We responded the following. Detective Stoddard and myself responded the following on the 9th after that. Like I said,
Right.
this was a front desk report. It wasn't, there was not a 911 call.
Okay. You responded to the premises a number of days later where you served a copy of the citation.
On the 9th, that's correct.
I have nothing further of Detective Fencer. Thank you.
Great, Attorney Kelly, you may proceed.
Richard, Igor Trindade, please.
Mhm.
Please, you're sworn in already, Mr. Trindade. Would you state your name for the record, please, spelling your last name?
Igor Trindade, Trindade.
And you're an employee of Fenway Johnny's, correct?
That is correct.
And what is your position with Fenway Johnny's?
General manager.
You've heard the report that was read out here by Detective Fencer this morning.
I
Is that
have.
correct?
Yep.
You have. And were you on the premises on December the 5th, 2022, when this alleged incident occurred?
I was.
You there? Do you recall what occurred on that evening?
Not 100%. You know, as we've spoken, the report came, you know, the actual write-up came a year and a half later or something. But, you know, as I read the report, I remember the evening, you know, an incident around that time that a gentleman got into an altercation inside the bar. We escorted him out. You know, there was a group of guys standing by the bar. He was, you know, having a good time, but he bumped into one of the guys. They started a bit of an altercation, and he got, you know, struck in the face by this guy. And then we separated the fight, and you know.
When you say by this guy, do you mean by another patron?
The victim, the alleged victim.
Struck in the face by another patron.
Correct.
All right, continue, please.
And, you know, we escorted him out. He was giving us a hard time trying to come back in. And we said, listen, you're not coming back in. Just go home, go home. And he kept trying to charge in. And we called, you know, after he wouldn't leave, we called the cops and he left.
He left.
Yes.
Thank you. I've nothing further of Mr. Trindade at this point. May I call John Karen very briefly, please?
You may.
Mr. Karen, are you present? Heard your voice earlier.
Mr. Karen, I've just asked you to unmute.
Yes, I'm here.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Mr. Karen, you're already sworn.
Yeah, it's John Caron, Caron.
And are you the licensee of Fenway Johnny's LLC?
I am.
Were you present for the reading of the report by Detective Fencer a few moments ago?
Yeah, I've heard the whole thing.
That's a report concerning an incident that occurred on December the 5th, 2022. Right?
Yes.
I know it's your practice, Mr. Karen, to often be present on your own licensed premises. In fact, I believe you're present most evenings. To your best recollection, were you present on December? Were you present on December the 5th, 2022?
I was.
You were. And do you recall if anything occurred that evening?
I remember the incident. I remember going outside. And I watched the whole thing. He kept charging the door.
You say he, who do you mean?
The person in question here.
He kept charging the door. What else?
Yeah. That was it. We kept asking him to leave, and we called the police. And that was it. He left.
And he left. And it's your testimony that you called the police, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Madam Chair and Commissioners, this is an incident that allegedly occurred on December the 5th, 2022, and as I previously stated, I read the police report in February of this year. Detective Fencer has told us that he reached out to the victim. Victim has no interest in pursuing it. There are no other witnesses to the allegations that Mr. Schubert has made to the cadet when he went down 24 hours later to the Boston Police Department. There's no corroboration of his statements that he was assaulted by an employee. There are no witnesses to that assault. There's no identification of any individual who may have assaulted him that night, and he left voluntarily and fairly. Detective Fencer has reached out to him and he said he wants nothing to do with it. You may have questions of.
Thank you, Chairman Joyce. Any questions?
I just want to get on the record, you were notified about this, the licensee, like a few days after it happened, correct?
We got a citation.
Right. So you keep talking about the timeline, but I want to get on the record that you were notified by the police within 5 days, and we are here in May because you requested a continuance, so putting that on the record. I have no questions. Commissioner Kern?
Is there any video preserved outside on the night in question?
I don't believe so, Commissioner Karen. As I stated, for the record, we did get notice, but we didn't get a police report until 14 months later.
You got notice on the 7th of assault and battery employee on patron, right?
Correct. We got a citation.
Okay, what did you do with regard to just the on its face employee on patron assault and battery?
Well, I believe Mr. Trindade that night they called the police.
No, I know, but what did you do in order to preserve any evidence? What for the existence or non-existence of such an incident?
Well, I'll ask Mr. Trindade.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What did you do to preserve video evidence regarding the existence or non-existence of any such incident of an employee on patron assault and battery on the evening of the 3rd to the 4th, right?
Correct. Well, historically, we get the notice, with the write-up and all the details on, a couple of days, if not a week after. So, it is on me. I dropped the ball. I should have made a video, but I didn't know the timeline or anything because I didn't, firsthand watch the incident. I heard about it later. So I should have made a video, but I didn't know the timeline. So I guess I was waiting for the information so I can make the video of the exact space, exactly, what the report would say, and I did not.
Okay, but on the night of, and even on the 9th of December, it seems to me that you knew that the alleged victim had been outside and had been charging at your employees, as you guys allege, right?
Yes.
Okay, why wasn't that whole sequence of video preserved?
Well, we called the cops and the gentleman went away. In my mind, it just went away.
Yeah, but you were cited. You were cited on the 9th.
I was cited later, sir, not the night
You were
of.
cited on the 9th.
Yes, the day after.
As of the 9th, based on the testimony today, as of the 9th, you knew that there was an incident. The incident included time outside. That time outside, you alleged that the victim was the aggressor and was charging at your employees.
You are correct, sir. I did not make a video.
Why wasn't a video preserved of that whole sequence?
I did not make a video, unfortunately.
I was present. There was no incident. He just kept coming up to the door. He was obnoxious, and then he left.
You testified that he had been charging your employees.
He kept coming up to the door and saying, I should be let back in. I should be let back in. Repeatedly, but then he left.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
No questions from me, thank you.
Do you have anything further from the board? Board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling, I do not believe Mr. Kalivas has joined us from the last item, but just checking before we move on. Mr. Kalivas, have you been able to join us? We will call again in a moment. Calling item number 4, Guzman LLC, doing business as Medallo, located at 411 Chelsea Street in East Boston. Date of the incident, October 13th, 2023. Assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, patron on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 15A. Who's present on behalf of the licensee?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Could you please identify yourself for the board?
I'm Luis Maldonado. I'm in charge.
Thank you, Mr. Maldonado. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I see Detective Espino is here.
Sorry, technical difficulties. Detective Espino, the Boston Police.
Great, thank you very much, Detective. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? Can you both please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
The truth.
I do.
Thank you, Detective Espino. If you could please read the police report into the record for us.
Yes, sir. I'll be reading police report number 232-082-857 at about 2 p.m. on Friday, 10/13/2023. Officer Rodriguez, while assigned to the District A7 front desk, spoke with a walk-in victim, Elda Johnson Buenrostro, who stated she was attacked with a hard plastic pitcher at 411 Chelsea Street, East Boston, Medallo Bar. Johnson Buenrostro stated that on Sunday, 10/8/2023, at about 1 a.m., she and some family members were at Medallo's bar. The bar was packed. They stood in front of a table when an unknown male attempted to return to the table. He had previously been out with friends. The victim's cousin, Isabel Negrete, was yelled at aggressively and told to, quote, "get the fuck out of the way," end quote. This caused both parties to get into a verbal altercation with one and another. At this time, the victim was approached by Medallo Bar security. The victim notified the security of the issue. The unknown male's girlfriend tried to approach the victim's cousins. The victim stood between the unidentified female and her cousin and told the female it wasn't a good idea. The unknown female pushed the victim. The victim told the suspect not to fucking touch her. The unidentified female tried to lunge at the victim. However, the security guard stood between them. At that time, the unknown female threw her drink at the victim. The victim stated that she then took her own drink and threw it at the unknown female. The unknown female then turned and grabbed a hard plastic pitcher, swung it at the victim, and hit her on the left side of her face, causing damage to her nose, her left eye, and laceration to her left cheek. At this point, the victim was bleeding and fell to the ground. The victim's aunt, Karina Sanchez, ran to the security guard and asked them to call 911 or to allow her to leave the building several times because they needed to get an ambulance. The aunt was told that she wasn't allowed to leave the building. The victim refused an ambulance, but requested for the police to be called, but was told no. The aunt then told the security guard that they didn't know how bad her niece's injuries were and that she needed to be treated. After several minutes and after receiving a phone call, the security guards finally let the victim and her family leave. The victim's family took her to the hospital after the incident. She has all the paperwork and photos concerning the victim's injuries. That is the end of the initial report. My investigation did reveal the victim did provide photos. She had injuries to her left side of her face, a laceration. She developed a black eye and swelling to her nose. My investigation also revealed somebody called 911. I couldn't tell you who. I attempted to contact that person and to no avail.
Thank you, Detective Espino. Mr. Maldonado, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, I do. So that happens on Sunday, which is still Saturday, Sunday of October 28, 2013. Mr. Espino going to my business, and then I'm very sure like 5 days or 6 days after to show my cameras, all the stuff like that. And then I agree with him. I show him for like 2 times. He showing up for like 2 times to my business. Did he say the first time he lost the whole cameras, I give it to him. The second time I'll give it to him back again. That day I was there. There was 2 groups on the back to my business. One of those, who said they get her, she's really drunk. She is really screaming, really young girl. There was with another family. I don't know, I'm very sure it's family because that's what Mr. Espino say. But everybody, my security did, they take the first women out of the business. And then after I say to the group, I ask him, I goes, hey, what happened? And then they told me like she's really drunk. That day, I don't see any cut from her because that happened really quickly, really fast. So that's what I have because I was there that day, and my security job, make sure anything happens. But that day we don't call the cop because I don't see any. We have to do it. I don't know where she called the cops, what time she called, but we don't. That's the first thing I do. Like a person, like I'm in charge, my business. First thing, something I really need, the security can handle it. I call 911 right away.
Thank you. We'll turn to see if there are any questions from the board. Commissioner, Chairman Joyce, any questions?
You can go to Commissioner Curran and Commissioner Saxon first. I'm just trying to read through the police report again slowly.
Thank you, Commissioner Curran.
Was there anything going on with them? They weren't allowed to leave. Was that being held because the parties were being separated or something like that? Is that
what my securities did? So who's starting fighting over here? Who's starting pushing? Like they say, oh, who take first out one woman, and the second group who's what I heard she get hurt. One of those friends that he paid the top. I say to him, yo, what happened? She's okay. He said to me, it's really top guy. He say she's fine. She's really drunk. Okay, I say to her, he paid the top before because she's one of those friends that's really drunk, and then so we separated, but. Honest, like inside the business, my security did a great job. They took one group first out, and then the other group they paid the top, and then they left.
okay?
So and I showed the cameras from outside too. So I did my job. That day, I don't see anything. I was there because my business. I'm in charge, and I always anything happens. I got the police like 2 blocks from my business. So anything happens, I call right away.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The patron who was quote unquote really drunk, how much did she drink in the establishment?
I'm very sure she get really late. She was drunk. And I'm very sure she started like honest, like she get there like almost like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, that's the accident happened. So she don't drink that much. She's really young women. And then again, she can get 2 shots, they can get drunk. I'm honest with you that day. I'm very sure I saw her drunk. And then she's friend too. And then I say, I'm sorry, I can't have you guys here. Pay the top. And one of those friends, they paid the top. And then they leave.
Do you have a record of the tab?
I'm very sure I need to take a look at it because that happens in 2000, almost 8 months ago.
So no record.
You're muted. You're still muted, Danny.
Thank you. Anything further from the board at this time?
No.
Thank you. And the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you very much. Calling item number 5, Fuente Cleaning Services, Inc., doing business as Billares Columbia, located at 28 Bennington Street in East Boston. Date of the incident, January 1st, 2024. Overcapacity in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.03J and 1.06A and F. Manager not available on premise in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Hindering enforcement agents in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.10A and B, and expired entertainment and common victualler licenses in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who's present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, Chair Joyce, board members, Attorney John Connell from the firm of Upton, Connell and Devlin. And I should have here Roberto Restrepo, the manager of record of technically the current licensee.
Thank you. Yep, I do see Mr. Restrepo. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Sullivan Venezia.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals who would like to, with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident, who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And sorry, Attorney Cannell, did you identify the individual who's with Mr. Restrepo?
If he could, that would be great.
Thank you. Mr. Restrepo, who do you have with you here? You can please, oh, you're on mute right now. You're still on mute. I've asked you to unmute.
The person that's with him should be an interpreter.
Okay, when they are ready to speak, we'll make sure that they are sworn in and identify themselves as well. Okay, Officer Sullivan Venezia, if you could please proceed with the police report.
Okay, about 1:44 a.m. on Monday, 1/1/24, Officer Sullivan Venezia in the Gold 416 Alpha responded to assist with a license premise violation at 28 Bennington Street, East Boston, Villiers, Colombia. Assisting was Officer Agudelo Achivera in the Gold 412 Alpha, Officers Mirando and Biggio in the Gold 101 Alpha, Sergeant Matera, the Gold 907, and Captain Bickerton, the Gold Charlie 01. While patrolling the area of Bennington Street and Porter Street for public safety due to the high volume of restaurants/bars in the immediate area, officers' attention was directed towards 28 Bennington Street due to the high volume of music coming from inside the premise. Captain Bickerton, along with Sergeant Matera, then attempted to enter the establishment to speak to the manager/suspect, later identified as Fernay Perroneres. While attempting to enter what appeared to be security, who was unidentified, working for the establishment, obstructed the pathway. Captain Bickerton then demanded him to move away from the entrance door. Officer Sullivan Venezia and Officers Agudelo Achivera then arrived on scene. Officers then entered the establishment and were unable to locate the manager/suspect. Due to the high volume of patrons/overcapacity, Captain Bickerton spoke to the security to have them close down for the remainder of the night due to safety hazards. Sergeant Matera then conducted a license premise inspection notice. It was then found that the entertainment license and the common victualler license were both expired. The violations include hindering enforcement agents, entertainment license expired, common victualler license expired, manager not present on premise, and overcapacity. Upon reviewing body cam footage, Officer Sullivan Venezia counted about 154 patrons exiting the establishment upon closing, along with about 15 employees. Captain Bickerton stated about 15 patrons left prior to officer activating the body camera. The permitted capacity is 49 people. Due to the manager not being present, he was unable to sign the license premise inspection notice for acknowledgement. Present staff members were uncooperative throughout the incident. And that's it.
Thank you, Attorney Cannell. Would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, I don't have any questions for the officer, but I'll just give a summary. The manager of record was not there that night. There's no doubt about that. Rigoberto Restrepo. A manager of record doesn't necessarily need to be there 24/7 or at all times, but he was not there. We don't think that's a violation. What we did have there, just for the board's recollection, this license has transferred at the ABCC level. The new buyer with the new manager of record has not picked up the license yet. The new manager of record is Laura Perennes, wife of Fernie Perennes. Restrepo is the father of Fernie, I believe. I got that straight. When on this particular night, the licenses were renewed from 23 to 24. This was the first 2 hours of 2024. The licensee didn't replace or put the new licenses for 2024 after midnight. I'm not so sure I would have even thought of that myself. However, the security person that did greet the officer had been employed by this place for only 2 or 3 weeks. It was New Year's Eve, and he was clearly unqualified to handle the situation. We do not contest the overcrowding, over occupancy. We do not contest that he did whatever he did that the officer characterized as obstruction to get into the place. Both Laura and Fernie Prenez were in Florida at this time. So none of the family members that usually work at this establishment were there that night. And we very much regret that this happened. It was New Year's Eve. There were a lot of people on the street and everybody wanted to keep the party going. And from what I understand, the obstruction was that the security guard locked the door to prevent anybody from coming in, which he may have done in an effort to prevent patrons from coming in. So generally, that's it. We apologize for this, but as I said, Laura Prenez is the new manager of record. When the new license is picked up, she's very much dedicated to operating this place at a higher level, and we regret this incident.
Thank you. Anything further before we move to questions?
No.
No.
Okay. Chairman Joyce, any questions?
Is Laura here?
No.
Okay,
No.
I know she worked there before under the old management too, but my question is just, and Attorney Cannell, maybe you can answer. I mean, overcapacity is frequently a problem at this establishment. What were they doing that night to count patrons, and what do they do now? I know this.
Well, every night.
I know this been transferred, but a lot of the players are the same, so I just want to talk about how they control the crowds.
Sure. And security people are trained to obviously keep count and not to go over 49. We don't know what happened with this particular guy. His name was Jorge Santos, who was fired immediately after this for working the door negligently, in our opinion. As I said, the family members were basically in Florida for New Year's Eve holiday, and the employees are trained to count people who come and who go, and they're supposed to keep it under 49. As you know, Chair Joyce, this place had a long history of getting into compliance with all these requirements, and they have worked very hard and have been on balance very good. New Year's Eve, coupled with the inexperience of this person that they left in charge of the door, generated this problem. So we are always on this, and we have been on this for years. It's just that we didn't have a perfect record on this particular night.
So Bernie was not there, even though he's written up in the police report as he attempted to establishment.
If you read the report, the officer says that Fernie was sought but could not be located.
Okay, because he was in Florida.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Carno, Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
Who was left in charge in the stead of the manager of record that evening?
Roberto, are you there?
Yes.
Who was left in? I'm sorry. If you may, Mr.
The person
Carno.
left in charge was Alejandra, manager.
Alejandra who?
¿Cuál es el apellido de Alejandra? Ramirez, an employee at this location.
Okay, so they were the most senior, the boss person that night, correct?
Yes.
All right, and where was that person when the police were looking for the person in charge?
At the bar. Behind the bar.
If I could just interrupt for a moment, ma'am, I know you raised your hand earlier to be sworn in. I don't believe you've identified yourself to the board yet. If you could please do so.
My name is Stephanie Bedoya. I'm the interpreter for Rigoberto Restrepo.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. What was your last name?
Bedoya, Bedoya.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, Commissioner Carn, you may continue with your questioning.
Okay, as far as I can see, or, ascertain, that person did not make themselves known to the police that evening. Is that true?
Yes.
If I may, it's not in the report whether they ever.
I'm asking, is it true?
Is what true?
Did they not make themselves known to the police that evening?
But I'm trying to. what I'm trying to, well, what I'm trying to say, and we can let the witness answer, is there's nothing here that where the police officer asked to speak to that person. So we don't know if making themselves present when nobody requested them is, you know, the answer you're looking for.
They only asked for Fernay at that time.
Officer Sullivan Venezia, did you only ask for one person, or did you ask for who was in charge?
So I wasn't the one that personally asked for who was in charge. It was Captain Bickerton and Sergeant Matera.
Did you witness that request?
No, I did not.
Okay, were you present when they were trying to get someone to sign the notice?
I was only present during the exiting of the patrons.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Sachs, any questions?
What kind of training did you guys do, knowing that you would be in Florida? What kind of conversation did you have? Did you leave any writing? I'm curious on what was said, what was communicated before you left.
Rigoberto?
Can you please repeat that?
Before you left for Florida, what did you say? What did you communicate to the staff who would be in charge of New Year's Eve?
Get the, there could only be 40 people inside, 49 people inside.
Yeah. You said,
And to close at 2 like every day.
Ms. Saxon, I would point out too that neither Fernie nor Laura were the manager of record on the license. Rigoberto was, and he was home. I believe he lives in Revere, but he was here and he just wasn't working at that time. So it wasn't so much that the other people left and needed to leave a manual or some instructions, but the people there should have known better. There's no doubt about it.
I have another question. I think it would be for you, Attorney Canal. Who is our 24-hour contact? Who was our 24-hour contact listed for that premises at that time? The board's 24-hour contact. Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest.
Could it have been Fernie?
I would have, you know, I don't think I need to speculate. I just don't know.
I'm looking through our renewal records right now. It was Laura was our 24-hour contact.
For that year before the.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from the board? Board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Calling item number 6, John J. Summers Co. Inc., doing business as Green Dragon Tavern located at 11 Marshall Street. Date of the incident, March 25th, 2024. Assault and battery, employee on patron on premise in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 130, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who's present on behalf of the licensee?
Noel Summers.
Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez did the follow-up. We did not write the original report.
Thank you. Do we have somebody here who will be reading the initial report in?
I can.
Thank you. Oh, Detective Hernandez, you're trying to speak. You're on mute right now. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sergeant Detective Gallagher, if you can please proceed with the police report.
Yes, good morning. I'll be reading a Boston Police Incident Report that was written by Officer Manuel Simas. At about 11:34 p.m. on 3/16/24, Officer Simas, assigned to the Alpha 499 Wall and Patrol, observed a male with a cut around his eye at Hanover Street and Union Street. The male, later identified as Mikhail Jakovich, date of birth 11/1/77, stated the staff at the Green Dragon had roughed him up and threw him on the ground outside, and they had broken his glasses as well during the physical altercation. The officer then spoke to Michael Olson, date of birth 2/28/86, manager of the Green Dragon, who stated that they were approached by a female guest stating that they were inappropriately touched. When he was approached by staff, he began to choke one of the staff members, to which the staff then removed Mr. Jakovich from above. The officer then spoke to the female who staff had previously stated had been inappropriately touched. The female, Alexei Kama Conklin, stated to the officer that Jankovic was staring at her and her friends for a long period of time, and only placed his hands on her shoulder for a brief period of time, attempting to speak with her. Jankovic was placed at EMS, Boston EMS, in Alpha, the 101 responded, arrived on scene and cleaned Jankovic's injuries. Officer CMS notified the patrol supervisor, the Alpha 902, Sergeant Hogan, of the incident for the Code 35 license premise check to be done at a later time due to the high frequency of 911 calls for service because it was St. Patrick's Day. Following report is my report, and Detective Hernandez. We followed up, and that report reads as follows: on Monday, 2/25/24, Sergeant Gallagher, Detective Hernandez, signed a licensed premise unit, responded to the Green Dragon to speak to staff regarding a prior assault and battery incident report. That incident happened on March 16th, 242-021654. That's the Boston Police Incident Report number. Detective spoke to the person in charge, Miss Kiva McGonigal, who stated she was aware of the incident, but they had not been working that evening. Miss McGonigal was informed by detectives to have the owners preserve any and all surveillance video of the incident. As a result, Sergeant Gallagher issued a license premise violation number 021043 for assault and battery employee on patron. Miss McGonigal assigned to and accepted the notice. That's all I have.
Thank you. It does appear that there's one additional supplemental report that has not been written to the record yet from.
Yes. I have a report written by Officer Seamus on signed to the Alpha Tango 55. Is that the report you're referring to, sir?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah. Officer Seamus assigned as the Alpha Tango 55 while in the A1 station was stopped by the victim, Mr. Michael Jankowicz, who stated that he wanted to add that he was also assaulted by his friends the night of the original incident report. He stated that Shane Anderson, unknown date of birth, was mad that he'd been thrown out of the above and he had choked him. And that Jeremy Andrews, unknown date of birth, may have grabbed and pushed him. He stated further that while this was going on, that he may have been elbowed. Stacy Edwards and Heather Articulus were also trying to get away from both Shane and Jeremy. That's that last report, sir.
Thank you very much. Ms. Summers, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, so from what I was told, the doormen were approached by a female saying that she had been touched inappropriately by the patron. The doorman went over to ask him to leave. He became aggressive. There were two doormen that went over. The patron became aggressive and when choked one of our doormen. They then did go to the ground and fought and then got him out. Management was unaware of the incident until the patron had left and got police that was on the street. And then while he was outside, his friends came out and he got into a fight with them, the patron with his friends. We did let our doorman and our manager go from that day because there were a series of incidents that occurred on March 16th.
Thank you. Anything further you would like to add before we move to questions from the board?
No.
Thank you. Chairman Joyce, we'll start with you. Any questions?
My only question is, how many staff did you have on that evening?
4 doormen and our manager. our general manager as of the Summers Pubs also came down when he had heard of an incident over our radios.
So the two of the four doormen left to approach this guy that they had been informed had.
Yeah.
Okay,
So our policy is to go in twos.
okay. I have no questions.
Commissioner Curran,
I don't have anything. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Commissioner Saxon?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement. And calling item number 7, which concerns the same licensee, John J. Summers Co. Inc., doing business as Green Dragon Tavern, located at 11 Marshall Street, date of the incident, March 16th, 2024. Overcrowding 215, found on mechanical count, capacity 149, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.03J and 1.06A and F. Who's present on behalf of the licensee?
Noel Summers.
Thank you. And who's present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher again.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify?
Detective Hernandez is needed.
Thank you. You have all been sworn in already this morning. Sergeant Detective Gallagher, if you could please read the police report into the record.
Yes, on 3/16/2024 at about 1:15 p.m. Lieutenant Detective Adrian Troy, Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, along with BPD Area A1 Detective Sergeant Detective Salucci, Detectives McDonough and DeGaulle, conducted a licensed premise inspection of the Green Dragon at 11 Marshall Street. As detectives entered the premise, they observed it to be quite crowded, finding it difficult to pass through. Thinking that the premise had exceeded its occupant load, detectives conducted a mechanical count, which resulted in 215 persons being found. The premise has a listed capacity of 149. The results of the detectives' count was given to the manager, Mr. Michael Olson, who stated he would bring the premise into compliance. On 3/18 about 2024 at 11:45 p.m., Sergeant Detective Gallagher, Detective Hernandez signed a licensed premise unit, delivered a licensed premise inspection notice number 018050 to the Green Dragon for overcrowding, 215 on mechanical count, capacity 149. Notice was signed by Ms. Kiva McGonigal, and those are the facts.
Thank you. Ms. Summers, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes. So first I'd like to apologize and show my extreme embarrassment that we would ever be over capacity after over 30 years. In the business, we take it very seriously. The doorman that we had on had been with us for a few years. He's done St. Patrick's. He knows our capacity. We also had meetings prior to that weekend saying to be under capacity by at least 10. And so those things not followed led to us also letting go of the management and the doorman that was on doing the count. It's just inexcusable.
Thank you. We'll see if there are any questions from the board at this time. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you. I have no questions.
Commissioner Curran.
None from me. Thank you.
And Commissioner Saxon.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. The board will take this matter under advisement as well. Calling item number 8, Brood Intentions LLC, doing business as The Fourth Wall, located at 228 Tremont Street. Date of the incident, April 6th, 2024. Persons under 21 in possession of alcohol on premise, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Sections 34A, 34C, and 6464A. Who's present on behalf of the licensee?
Attorney Carolyn Conway, 350 West Broadway, on behalf of the licensee, and I have with me today Mr. Derek Brady, who is the principal of the licensee. And though I haven't seen him, we have with us Mr. Rick Moriarty, who was the person in charge on the evening in question.
Thank you. I
Is
do
he-
not see Mr. Moriarty. If you're with us, if you could please turn your camera on so that we can swear you in. In the
He
meantime,
did check, he did tell us he was here.
okay, I do not see him, but in the meantime, I will ask who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department.
I am Detective Hernandez.
Thank you. And are there any
I
other,
think we could go forward without Mr. Moriarty, if that would suit the board.
Chairman Joyce, would you like to continue?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do. I do.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. If you could please read the police report into the record for the board.
Good morning. I'm going to read from the police report, which I wrote on Saturday, April 6, 2024, signed Detective William Gallagher. Detective Eddie Hernandez assigned to the BB License Permit Unit, conducted a license premise inspection of the fourth wall. As detectives walked into the establishment, detectives observed 6 patrons drinking alcoholic beverages. Detectives noticed these patrons looked young and asked them to produce identification to confirm their ages. Initially, all the patrons said that they were 21 years of age. Upon further questioning, it was determined that 2 out of the 6 individuals were under 21 years of age. Upon a further investigation, the underage patrons were positively identified as Sharia Julakanti with a Froslin, South Carolina driver's license, and Angelina Tasafu with a Froslin, Connecticut driver's license. Both individuals will be summoned into court for persons under 20% of alcohol and false misuse of an R&B document. Detectives brought this situation to the attention of the person in charge, Mr. Richard Moriarty. As a result of what was observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license permit inspection notice 021054 for persons under 21% of alcohol on premise. Mr. Moriarty signed for and accepted the notice. That's all.
Thank you. Attorney Conway, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, first Detective Hernandez, Mr. Moriarty was cooperative with you. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, very.
Okay. This is basically a restaurant that is in the theater district. Our clientele is mostly theater goers. That night, we had a doorman on and Mr. Moriarty. Unfortunately, the doorman had to go downstairs to the basement to retrieve something, and these individuals walked in. Mr. Moriarty was the first to, he did card them at the bar. He believed that the identifications were valid, and unfortunately, they were not. So what happened is that the doorman, who is normally very good, and as the board can see from our record that we've operated, we've had basically no violations, especially since COVID. And the 2 individuals got past us. So it was the doorman being downstairs that unfortunately these people slipped through. We have reviewed our procedures since getting the notice of this violation. We've not only upped our employee meetings and what's going on, but we've also put new equipment at the front door, new scanners and all of that. We are going to get the applications that the Boston Police use so that we can up our game, if you will. We don't really have a problem with minors on this premises, but we will do everything that we can to ensure that this does not occur again.
Thank you. Anything further before we move to questions from the board?
I believe Mr. Moriarty has joined us.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Moriarty. If you could just please raise your right hand for us, we can swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank
If
you.
I may, Mr. Moriarty, did you hear my presentation to the board?
I did.
And that you basically agree that they were the facts that happened that evening?
Yes.
Thank you. Anything further, Attorney Conway, before we move to questions from the board?
No, I just wanted to make sure that Mr. Moriarty, acknowledged the presentation.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce, any questions?
So can you tell me a little bit about the staffing at the door? Is it just one person you have at the door on a Saturday night?
I could talk to that if you'd like, Carolyn.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the establishment is less than 100 people for capacity, so it's not a very big place, and usually it's more of a restaurant style place where we feed theater before and after theater. So we usually put one person greeting people at the door, checking IDs, and then a person behind the bar and a server. In this situation, the person that was behind the door, was at the door, had run downstairs to get supplies for the people that were working behind the bar.
it's something that got through as an oversight, but it shouldn't happen that way. So in the future, what we've done is we've instructed door guys that they have to stay at their post at the door continuously through the night without fail. And if something is to happen where they need to go downstairs to grab something for the bar, then the server or somebody else has to be at the door. We've also gone ahead and got an ID scanning machine to put at the door because these were fake IDs that got by us. I think they were pretty good fake IDs, and nowadays they all are. So the scanning machines that we use in our other establishments, we got one for this place as well. And honestly, we just hadn't got one for this place because we kind of deal a little bit more with restaurant crowd than we do with young students.
So as I said, we've reviewed our procedures and have this, we will upgrade them but we intend on remaining basically a restaurant. If you read the Yelp reviews and everything, it has great food in the theater district, and that's the clientele that we target. We want the people going to the theater and coming out afterwards. We don't want to run. We don't have a young crowd. We don't want to attract them.
Thank you. I have no questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify. They were missed at the door, but did you say they were carded at some point?
They were carded. They just didn't get carded at the door. And they were carded with, apparently they had fake IDs.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Moriarty carded them at the bar.
Yeah, they came in and they all came in kind of all at once. It was a little group of them. So I just they tried to order a drink right away. I just grabbed their IDs right away.
Okay, and so what's the training or the procedure regarding, young looking patrons with out of state driver's licenses?
So
Go ahead.
So the training is just check the IDs, make sure that they look valid, make sure that the picture looks right and all that. And when I looked at them, they all looked valid to me. They all were almost the same. And then I think there was only one of them that was a different state than the rest of them.
The difference that we're making in this is we're going to put a machine in that'll help with the user error because the IDs are very good nowadays.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Detective Hernandez, did you see the fake IDs or any of the other officers?
They were Connecticut and South Carolina. We did look at them. The technology's out there. These kids all have them. I don't believe that night they were scanning. We did scan them and they did come back as fraudulent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from the board?
Just one comment. Your location is pretty close to Emerson, right?
Emerson and Suffolk, yes, you are correct.
So just given that you're so close to these two colleges where there are often underage people, you are probably making a good business decision by having an ID scanner. You can't rely on that either. Some of these ID scanners will scan something that's valid, that's invalid. So you should really think about that as you move forward. And I'm going to request at this time a written copy of your operating plan, security operating plan. So we can
We're happy to provide one.
Okay.
Of course.
Thank you. Anything further from the board at this time? Board will take this under advisement as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before
Thank you.
moving on to the final item, I will take a second call to see if we have been joined by Mr. Kalivas regarding item number 2, Royale Boston Ballroom Corporation. I do see that the iPhone belonging to Mr. Del Pidio is back on the phone with us. Mr. Del Pidio, have you been able to contact Mr. Kalivas? Mr. Del Pidio?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, great, thank you. I've made 100 phone calls and, in the last 10 years, Judge and I have been coming to all the meetings. Judge has never missed a meeting. I have no idea what the problem is here, and I'd like to.
Mr. Del Pidio, are you still there? You cut off mid-sentence.
I said, in the last 10 years, George Kalivas and I have come to all the meetings. George has never missed a meeting. I would like to know if we could reschedule this meeting, please.
Sure,
Chairman Joyce, how would you like to proceed?
we'll reschedule.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Madam Chairman.
We can reschedule. Please contact the office later today.
Item will be rescheduled to the next available hearing date. And that concludes the license premise inspection hearings. The final item, item number 9, is a cancellation hearing. The licensee is the Russian Benevolent Society doing business as Crystal Restaurant Garage Room located at 14 to 20 Linden Street in Alston. This is a follow-up. The board held a mandatory informational hearing on November 14th, 2023, at which point the licensee was put on notice of the potential cancellation of the license due to non-use in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 77, and Section 64. We are now more than 6 months post the licensee putting put on notice of the potential cancellation. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Thank you, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board, Leslie Delaney Hawkins. On behalf of the licensee, with me today is my co-counsel, Attorney Kurt Letzer. Alex Matos, the manager of record, is present on behalf of the licensee. And finally with us also is Surin Carrion, who is the owner and operator of the Jana Grill in Watertown. We'll provide more context regarding his presence. As Attorney Green stated, we are obviously aware that this is a cancellation hearing. This is not to discuss a transfer. When we were previously before the board, we had entered into a lease agreement with the group called Sound Logic to sell and transfer the license to that group to be operated at this location. Unfortunately, Sound Logic was not able to comply with the terms of that agreement, which resulted in the relationship between the parties as landlord and tenant being terminated. And Sound Logic no longer has the legal right to occupy the premise. After that, the client reached out through their contacts looking for another buyer to come in and operate an establishment at this location. And that is when they were connected to Surin Carrion, who operates the Jana Grill in Watertown. Should this license not be terminated by the board at this time, the licensee intends to enter into a lease agreement and a purchase and sale agreement with Mr. Carrion to open another Mediterranean restaurant at this location. Again, given the timeline and this hearing being held, there's no agreement in place, but they're actively being negotiated should the license not be canceled. The licensee takes this cancellation extremely seriously, and they have been diligently looking for a buyer to come in and operate at this location. One of the very appealing aspects of the Jana Grill is that it is a restaurant with an outstanding existing reputation, as opposed to a strictly nightclub concept that, as the landlord, the Russian Benevolent Society, believe would be a better fit for the neighborhood. The Russian Benevolent Society has no interest in ever opening up as the licensee at this establishment or having any involvement with any operation at this establishment other than strictly being the landlord. And that's why they are actively seeking to sell and transfer the license, pending obviously the board's non-cancellation and eventual, hopefully, approval of a transfer at this time. As I said, we anticipate, should we be allowed to proceed, finalizing the lease agreement and purchase and sale in the coming weeks and promptly filing for a transfer application while we go through the community process with this new proposed operator. Again, obviously, this is all up to the discretion of the board, and we simply ask at this time that we be allowed to continue updating the board weekly in writing if necessary at the board's discretion to allow us to continue moving forward to cure this non-use. And with that, I'll ask Attorney Letzer if he had anything additional to add.
Just briefly, obviously, we all know the history of what's happened at the establishment, and we have actively been pursuing, trying to find somebody to sell a license to that could utilize the space. We believe that Mr. Carrion is a good candidate for that, and we are hoping that the board would see to it to not cancel the license at this point and allow us to pursue that and to continue negotiations to finalize that deal so we can bring that back before you.
Thank you, Attorney Hawkins. Attorney Bletzer, see if there are questions from the board at this time. Chairwoman Joyce.
I do have questions. So December 12th, 2024, we were all together for an informational hearing to consider the request to lift the indefinite suspension. Do you remember that, Mr. Matov?
Yes.
And at that hearing, your attorney stated the license was going to be transferred to a new operator, and then you interrupted them and said you don't want to transfer the license after all.
I misunderstood the process. Now I fully understand the process.
So why don't you explain that? What didn't you understand? Because you were before us in December telling us it was going to be transferred, and then you said you didn't want to transfer it. So explain to me how you've come to understanding the process.
Yeah. Well, first of all, hello everyone. To my understanding, we were supposed to transfer the license with the future possession of the license of a new entity. As I was explained, and my misunderstanding was that the transfer of the license is a sale of the license from the beginning, and that's where my misunderstanding was.
So you understand you're selling the license,
Correct.
and you didn't want to do that before?
I just didn't understand that's what it meant.
About this, I don't understand how a businessman like you, who's been in the business for years, didn't understand that. You have two attorneys that are guiding you. How did you not understand that?
Well, I needed to understand what's going to happen if the group is not capable of carrying forward. What's going to happen to the license itself? There were still several questions that remained that I should have asked you. Absolutely right. I should have known before I engaged into the meeting, but we cleared up since then that misunderstanding, and I'm in full understanding of what's going to happen next.
So recently, when did you start having conversations with Mr. Kurian? We're all under oath.
Since moment when we start looking for a new entity, once we became obvious that the SoundLogix is defaulting.
Okay, they were paying you rent, correct?
Up to January, they were.
Okay. So in January, they stopped paying you rent. And you understand that there are not a lot of liquor licenses available in the city. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of people looking for liquor licenses, and should we decide to cancel this one, it comes back to the city and you get $0 for it. And we get to give it out to somebody else.
I do realize.
Tell me a little bit about what you've been doing to find an operator.
We've been through our contacts, through the network of people that we know. We've been, since we had very limited time, we've been trying to find the party that would be suitable for this license.
And have you worked with your attorneys to find someone?
We've been working all together, but yes, and this is how we came across. And there were several entities that came by, and Jean Agril seemed to be the most suitable one for the transaction.
What were you looking for in the sale? Highest bidder? What were you looking for?
We work
with both of your attorneys a lot, and I know they often work to find licenses for other clients. I'm just kind of curious why here we are. Last Friday, I got a phone call that it was a verbal agreement after 6 months. Verbal agreement to me is not anything close to a purchase and sale or a lease. A verbal agreement is like, we might be interested, and please come to the hearing and say you want to come in the space. So tell me a little bit more about this. I'm not completely convinced that this is anything more than a promise to come to the hearing today to say you're interested in the space. So you don't lose your license.
We have no intention of continuing working in this environment, in the business of restaurant or club. We understand what's going to need to happen, and we are actively looking for the right company to step in. And as I mentioned, there were several other companies. We were careful to make sure that we're not going to engage with anybody who have not been in business before. Who has no reputation, because obviously SoundLogix, we thought that we have an interesting, young, vibrant group that's stepping in, that they didn't have much of experience prior, and we see now how it fired back. And so from that point on, the search was for a credible company that's capable of conducting this business.
So, can someone give me a little bit more information about where you guys are in the negotiations? Friday, I heard it was a verbal agreement. We were waiting on drafts of things.
We
This deal done. You're asking me to extend this license, like I could cancel it Thursday and it'll come back to me. So tell me what you want. Tell me what we're doing here as far as a business deal.
So in the business deal, what we're trying to do is we have agreements with Mr. Kirian to a lease agreement and a purchase sale agreement, which we are negotiating on at this present time. He has been in discussions with Alex's partner, and they are working out the details of that, which we are putting on paper for them.
Mr. Kurian, have you seen this lease agreement or this draft purchase and sale?
Yes, so we're talking about the lease agreement. The only thing it's pricing and some conditions that I want to have before I go inside. But it's mostly ready, and we have I believe we can do it during like a couple of days, maybe 1 week. We can finish it if so it's almost done. I believe so.
When was the first time you saw it? When was the first time you had conversations with Mr. Matov?
First time, I'm not sure, but I don't remember the date, but it was about first time I've heard it about like 2 months ago. I went to a restaurant, I saw the place, even 3 months, maybe 3 months ago. It was like a beginning of this year. And then I didn't like it in some reason. And then I went back after 1 month, like 2 months ago, I think so, months ago, and then we started negotiations.
And so you're stating that there's just a few things left for you to talk about with their team?
I'm stating that it's in negotiations, and I believe, hopefully we're gonna do it like if we want, we can do it like in a couple of days. I believe so. Just very few things left.
And you plan on having a Mediterranean restaurant?
Yes, I'm going to continue my concept, the concept that we have right now. And just the only thing why I need larger space, because my that's John and Grill is too small, and in this space it's very big, and we can put more people there, and it's gonna be like I need a liquor license, I need entertainment license. This is the main thing that we're negotiating.
Okay. Commissioner Saxon, Commissioner Kern, do you have any questions?
I just want to be clear, a limiting factor here, it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you're not willing to market this on an open market, correct?
No, it's been on the open. No, it's been on the open market.
I've seen advertisements for it.
Okay, so it's been marketed on the open market for someone to buy it and take it somewhere else?
Hopefully the goal is to keep it there.
No, I get that as a goal, that's fine. I just wanted to confirm, had it ever been marketed in another manner?
There's been a lot of conversation about that, yes, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. I was, wrong about that, thank you. And how would this the proposed purchase right now be financed? And would there be a pledge back?
This is something that we're in discussion right now. Hopefully we'll finalize it soon, and that's basically the final strokes of the agreement you're talking about.
So
yeah, there most likely would be a pledge back, for security, obviously.
So it's not going to be financed. Right?
I don't know that. I don't know that yet. We don't know that yet. Our goal would be for it to be fully paid for, but.
Okay, but that's been a problem.
I don't know that's a problem. It's just a final detail.
Okay, and this this cancellation hearing was noticed, about a month ago, a little less.
Yes.
Why wasn't this finalized a week ago instead of a week from now?
Couldn't get it done. Negotiations with pricing and details.
Yeah, even with the weight of this hearing coming up, it's gonna be done in another week.
Obviously, on our side, we needed it done, but we couldn't force that down Mr. Kirian's group.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Saxon.
There was something that you said, Mr. Carrion, did you said when you first saw it that you liked it or did not like it, the space?
No, when I first saw it, it was too much expenses, and I didn't like it. It was like 2 or 3 months ago, I'm not sure. And then second time, we negotiated, and then some improvements, and if it's improvements will be done, so I like it. I like the place, I'll take it. It will be done by the landlord, I mean. This is the main thing, that pricing in details, this is the main thing we're negotiating. So, and the rest, everything is perfect. For me, everything is perfect. So I'm ready from my side.
So you're all ready. You're just waiting on Mr. Matov's attorneys to do their part.
We're negotiating. So I told how negotiations is going. So I told what I need. They tell me what they want to do, and I'm telling what I want to do, and then I believe we can finish it during during a couple of days, 1 week if we want.
Attorney Bledsoe, do you think your side is prepared to do this within a week?
Let's say this way, to be in safe side, 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that we get it done this week because of the holiday, but I think a couple of weeks is sufficient to have it done.
I'm just
Yes.
asking both you and Attorney Delaney Hawkins to be honest and realistic with us, like give us a realistic timeline. I mean, when I got the call Friday that you only had a verbal agreement, I was not pleased after waiting 6 months for you guys to come back. So what's a realistic timeline?
I would say 3 weeks is realistic, only because the next week and a half is a problem for me. And
so I agree.
I think that's realistic. Again, it's just those final deal terms that we need to incorporate, including the financing and the price.
Any further questions or comments from the board?
So my question to the attorneys would be, if we're voting on this on June 27th, if we're saying 3 weeks, that skips our 6th meeting for voting. Is that a problem?
no.
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 Anything further from the board? Anything further from Attorney Hawkins or Attorney Bledsoe?
No, thank you.
Okay, with that, the board will take this matter under advisement as well. These are all the items before the board this morning that will adjourn this hearing, and the board will convene to vote on Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Notice has been posted to the city's website. Thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.